second.
What is up, guys? You already know who it is. It's Attack of the Games, and for this video I'm going to be going over my initial impressions for a beta that I just played. The game is called Rising Storm 2 Vietnam. If you don't know what that is, it's pretty much like a first-person shooter that's set in Vietnam. But before I get into all this, I just want to say thank you guys for supporting and subscribing to my channel. 67 subs, so I'm trying to get up to 100 by the end of summer. And of course, if you're brand new to the channel and if you definitely enjoyed the video that you watched, please like, comment, and subscribe. Now, Rising Storm 2 Vietnam is, like I just said, a first-person shooter game that's based off of Vietnam. And if you pretty much know the first-person shooter marketplace right now, it's filled with World War II, World War I, now Cold War games, and pretty much futuristic games. But there's no Vietnam War. The last Vietnam War focused game that I can think of is Black Ops 1 and the Battlefield Bad Company 2 DLC that they have. But that's about it. You know, we don't have a lot of Vietnam games, and in comes Rising Storm 2. And obviously what they aim to do is capture the essence of what it was like to fight in Vietnam, and I gotta say they do a phenomenal job. So the Tripwire Interactive, the same guys that made Killing Floor, that awesome zombie game, definitely recommend you guys buy that. They had this game in beta for probably like 6 months now, and the final wave, which is wave 7, was just released, and I was fortunate enough to get an email from them saying that I could pretty much get into beta. And I was again fortunate enough to play the game, and I've played through it for like the whole week, and I gotta say I was pretty impressed. Now the gameplay that you're seeing is pretty much recycled from the last video that I dropped from the gameplay. Because my NVIDIA experience, the thing that I used to capture my PC gameplay, wasn't working, so I was bummed out when I found out that I didn't really capture any clips. It was just like a black screen and like a pitching noise. So I'm pretty much going to use this recycled clip. So it's really a shame, because I was in a ton of great matches. You know, I was in a helicopter, I was manning an M60, got like a 10-piece kill and all that. But you know, I'm just gonna have to, you know, talk about what I experienced in the game. Now, first off, I'm gonna start off with what I like, obviously. Now, the animation in the game is well done. You know, you can see, like, if you're in free cam, you can see how when you're running, you can see the gun. You're holding the gun with one hand. You know, most games you just hold it with two, but that's how they used to do it back in Vietnam. You know, this war was unique. It was in the 70s. Things weren't, you know, as known as they were like in the 70s until the 80s. So I like the way that they take detail into small things that you would expect in the Vietnam era. And then there's also the crouch sprint. Now this goes in with the animation as well, but this is one of the most unique features I've seen in a first-person shooter game for a long time. Now what this allows me to do is I can crouch and at the same time sprint, and I cannot tell you how many times that was so useful. I mean, you don't see any first-person shooter game do this. I mean, you can sprint, but you can't sprint from a crouch position, and that's how they used to do it, because you know, the Vietnam Republic, the Vietnam Republic, you know, I really don't know too much about the war, but they used tunnels, and then there was some form of trenches, and what they needed to do, the Americans, they needed to like run as fast as they can without, you know, expose themselves, because there's obviously lush jungles and you couldn't really see, so you needed to keep your head down, and it's just common sense. Of course, with the crouch sprint, you can't run as fast as when you know, normal sprint, but it's still, you know, it gives you maximum coverage, and I really enjoy that. Now, obviously, I've seen something like this in Gears of War, and that's obviously why they run like that, so they don't get their heads blown off. But if I could say anything, just a side note, that if for future first-person shooters, I definitely would recommend that you take a page out of this book and implement a crouching sprint, because it's just so utilized well in this game. Another thing I like is obviously the 64-player battles. That's just a standard. If you're gonna have a Vietnam War, might as well go all out. It definitely fits in with the maps, which is also another thing that I liked. There is Hue City, then there is the a map called, I forgot its name, but it was just pretty much set in rice field, and it was just amazing to look at. And then there was one set deep in the jungle trenches. There was one deep up on top of the mountains with MG perks for the Vietnams, and you know, the way that it all plays out is just unique in their own retrospective, and I like that, every single one of it. Now, another thing that I like is the sound effects for the game. Now, for me, sound effects is the most important thing in the game because it just increases the immersion of what you feel within the game. And from everything from the M16 to the death grunts to the AK-47 to the AC-47 gunship, when it's just raining down cannon fire, it's just amazing. And I definitely applaud Tripwire for the amazing sound effects they do. And another thing I like is the game's graphics. Now, obviously, it's still in development technically, but at times it was just amazing and gorgeous to look at. The sunset, or just pretty much burning napalm, the napalm burning all the trees, and also with the graphics, there is this options in the option setting called post-processing. You can actually change what the game looks like. You can change it from like a Woodstock experience, which is just like trippy vibe type thing, and I really don't know how to explain it, like inertia of colors. And then there was obviously the Vietnam War movie filter, which gave you like a yellow, like if you've ever seen a burnt page when it's all yellow and crusty, that's pretty much what it felt like. You know, there was a lot of options to choose from for the post-processing, and I really definitely enjoyed it. It made the game look way better. Now, obviously, another thing that I liked is the limited HUD. In this game, I wouldn't really classify it as a hardcore game like Insurgency, but the fact that it has a limited HUD, like there would be a map, you know, you just press the key button T to pull it up, but then you really don't get a sense of where you are and where the enemies are. And obviously, games like this, especially tailored for PC, it makes the game 10 times better in my opinion, because I love to have a challenge. And another thing that I like is the fact that if you get shot in a specific area and if you don't die, chances are you'll end up having to patch up the wound, where you're gonna have to hold F to bandage it up. I think that's pretty realistic, and like if you don't, then you'll end up dying within a minute, and it just makes things intense and fast, and I really enjoyed that. Now, another thing that I liked is the small additions that most people don't definitely pay attention to. Like, for instance, if you run through water or you're running up a hill, you obviously get slowed down. The fact that you can press the sprint button while you're aiming down to hold your breath in while shooting, and the fact that you can scroll your mouse wheel up and down to like change the zoom in sights for not only like your sniper rifles as you expect, but your assault rifles, any gun that can shoot long range. So I definitely thought that was cool. And those are pretty much all the things that I liked. Now, the things that I didn't like, there's not a lot of it, but you know, it's still noticeable. There's no small battles, like there's no 8v8 mode, 16v16 mode, you know, something that's tailored to like a specific like Call of Duty style way. You know, I would expect something that like a game like this to have. You know, Battlefield has something like that in its 64 player battles, so you know, I'm hoping that they, you know, try to implement something like that in the full game. Another thing I didn't like is that there was only 5 maps, and once again, I'm not sure if this is how it's going to be in the full game, because I really did feel like I was playing the full game. But if the full game is like this, there's only 5 maps, and I gotta say, then I love these maps, don't get me wrong, but just those maps are probably going to get old really quick, so I'm hoping it's just not more than those 5 maps. Another thing that I didn't like is that there's no infantry vehicles, and like I'm talking like not tanks, but something like that, jeeps or like cars that you can drive with machine guns on them. Now again, I'm gonna reiterate this, I'm not sure if this is going to be in the full game, but I hope it is. But yeah. Another thing I didn't like, obviously, is the fact that because this is a beta, I understand it's still in development, but for me, it was glitchy at sometimes. This was going in when I was talking about the graphics and how beautiful it was, and it's sort of kind of, I was getting a little choppy in the frame rates, but other than that, you know, everything was fine. And like I said, there was not a lot that I didn't like. You know, there's a lot that I didn't like. On a side note, you know, I was kind of flip-floppy on the whole respawn system. Now, you sort of kind of hate it when you start using it. I mean, I wouldn't say I was confused. I was just kind of mad the fact that I would have to take like 2 whole minutes just to go from from the respawn point to objective. But once you start to understand it or tolerate it, then you'll be fine. And there's like, even if you on the Vietnam side, you can actually make tunnels for your team to spawn. That's pretty much like in the Call of Duty games. There was what's it called, the spawn, you know what I'm talking about, where you just flick the flare and you're good to go. But yeah, there's pretty much most of what I gotta say about this game. My impression pretty much is that it's a great game, needs a couple of fixes here and there, but I definitely would recommend it once it comes out. But that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you, Tripwire, for giving me a beta so I can pretty much play the game. This is pretty much all my thoughts. If you guys have some money and you ever get the chance, check this game out. Definitely will leave a link in the website to, well, I just said it for the website. Hope you guys have a great day, and of course, peace out.